Deeply offended by the Allies, Donald Trump has developed a plan to take revenge on the Europeans and is ready to radically reshape the North Atlantic Alliance. As reported today by The Telegraph, Donald Trump is considering a total reorganization of NATO aimed at punishing member states that do not meet his funding demands, as well as those who did not join the war against Iran in the Middle East. Essentially, Trump stated that after the war against Iran, he will seriously deal with NATO. The US president is considering a pay-to-play or stay-silent model which could deprive allies of the ability to make decisions, including in the event of the start of any war. Trump's idea is very simple. The US makes all the decisions and the rest join any war at all, even if they are against it. That's what Trump said. If others disagree, they should look elsewhere. If they don't pay the Americans, they can leave the alliance. My name is Pechiy. Let's discuss this topic together, but before we start this episode, I ask you to support the work of this YouTube channel. You can do this by subscribing, donating, or becoming a sponsor on YouTube. How to do this? All the links and details are in the description of this video or via the QR code on your screens at the end of the episode. If you find this information important and necessary, you can support this channel, including financially, and I would be grateful for that. And subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pechiy News. The link is also in the description of this video. Those who don't pay the Americans can simply go against Iran. He decided to completely reshape NATO for himself. Well, so that stories like this don't happen again. Moreover, Trump got this idea right after the Allies rejected his demands to send warships for the defense and operation of the Hormuz Strait. Sources close to President Trump told The Times that those who don't pay might face the possibility of American withdrawal. This could happen in Germany. It's a step he has been considering since returning to the presidency last year. And it's worth recalling how Trump previously stated with resentment that if the Germans don't consider his war with Iran as their own, then he is not obliged to protect them from Russia. As a result, Trump simply decided to take away the right to vote within NATO from everyone except himself. Next is a quote from The Telegraph. "Our dissatisfaction with the Europeans is quite justified," said a source in Trump's administration. "Any country that does not spend 5% of its GDP on defense should not be allowed to vote on future spending issues in NATO. Currently, all NATO member states spend at least 2% of their GDP on defense. This was the goal set by Trump in 2017. This year, the Secretary General of the Alliance, Mark Rutte, stated that leaders will have to present plans to reach the next target of 5% at the summit in Ankara at the end of this year. According to the proposals being considered by Trump, NATO allies who fail to meet the new target may be excluded from decision-making on NATO expansion and joint military discussions, missions, and the application of Article 5 on mutual defense. According to the proposals, you shouldn't be able to vote on spending future funds if you're not paying for them, a source in the US added. "We need to start a conversation about the fact that NATO allies who have not fulfilled their obligations may be excluded from decision-making. Excluding Spain and the United Kingdom is unacceptable," officials in Washington said. So Trump's team decided that if a country doesn't pay 5% of its GDP on defense, then it either, leaves NATO or sits quietly and does as it's told. According to the proposals being considered, Trump knows perfectly well that at the moment it's completely unrealistic for all NATO members who haven't met the target to suddenly be excluded from decision-making. According to the latest estimates, the leader in NATO spending is Poland, which spends 4.3% of its GDP on equipment, while the US spends 3.2%. According to the proposals, Poland should be the one to decide, and the US should be deprived of its voting rights. Overall, in 2025, for the first time, all NATO countries failed to meet the 2% target. As a result, NATO representatives reported that countries with a low indicator could be suspended. According to reports, American envoys have already started promoting such a plan and stated that in the future, the US is considering exactly this approach: pay or keep quiet. It's important to understand here that Trump's idea, NATO allies who have met the target could be suspended from decision-making on issues. This is actually a huge trap. So, Trump wants everyone else in NATO to obediently and quietly go fight if he starts another war in the future. Or pay the percentage again. According to the proposals being considered, Trump wants to push through such a decision. The thing is, in order to make decisions within NATO, consensus is required. As for NATO, those who have met the target indicator may be excluded from decision-making on issues and will clearly be blackmailed. Overall, if we look at the current situation, Trump's decision to send thousands служащих на Ближний Восток, according to the proposals being considered by Trump, NATO will not send ships to the Strait of Hormuz. As a result, Trump threatened to completely withdraw decision-making on expansion in Europe and cited insufficient support from the UK and Spain in the Middle East conflict. Let me remind you that Britain eventually decided to help and send its ships, but according to Trump, it was too late. But Spain immediately stated, according to the proposals, that their military bases were being considered for strikes against Iran, and Trump is already showing the allies. The Pentagon notified Congress on Thursday about plans to redirect about $750 million from a NATO-supported program, who have not made decisions on NATO expansion issues, to send them to war against Iran. To understand, there wouldn't be anything special here, but these $750 million are European money that was pooled together. According to the proposals being considered, Donald Trump is looking at sending weapons to Ukraine. And Trump says, no, we're taking this money, we need to fight. Moreover, Trump is already publicly threatening NATO, quote, "This was a test for NATO. If you don't do this, we'll remember it. You'll recall these words in a few months. Remember my words very carefully." They have an expression, a wonderful expression. Never forget. Well, we won't forget. According to the proposals being considered by Trump, NATO allies who have not met the target may be excluded from discussions on NATO expansion. Of course, I would be grateful to you for that. You can do this through donations. There's also paid sponsorship on YouTube. According to the proposals being considered by Trump, NATO allies may be excluded from NATO decision-making if they do not meet the target.